Hey y'all, it's Renegade, and I hope you're all having a happy new year. We're back once again to spill more reality, and we're talking a double dose here of episodes 5 and 6 of Canada's Drag Race. But as y'all know, I can't do this alone, and with us here today, I do have the president of the God fan club, QuackkrJack. Jack, we're at the point of the season where fan favorites are leaving left and right, with only the true frontrunners remaining. What are your feelings now that we're down to just 6 girls? And how are you doing tonight?
Oh, so glad that our finally the girl who should have gone like second finally has left. So glad that production can stop saving her every week. So happy to not have to see her face or her bad makeup anymore.
Ooh, I mean, I feel like the theme of these episodes were kind of seeing people's true colors, and they definitely came out before certain individuals left here. And can't wait to talk about all of this and spill some tea with you. But before we do, y'all, make sure you like and subscribe for future content because season 6 or 17 is literally hours away at this point, y'all. And throughout the whole month of January, we'll be dropping some of the best of 2024 content. So make sure not to miss out because it's gonna be some good stuff. Um, One thing I'll definitely be missing out on here, Jack, though, is the Golden Beaver, since we kind of learned after episode 6 it's going away for good, but boy, did it leave some juicy drama in its wake here. Um, Before we talk about all of that, let's talk about some social politics, because I think in these 2 episodes, we really saw a catty side of these girls starting to come to the surface, especially between 2 girls that I think we kind of clocked maybe as maybe not villains yet. I don't know if they're can be qualified as true villains here, but maybe just antagonists. Because we have people like Oh My God, who was just kind of cluelessly saying things about people and starting drama. And then we also have Xana stirring up drama as well here too. But it seems like Xana is doing things a little bit more purposefully. And I would say that the tension really kind of hit its peak in episode 6, where we even have Michaela starting to tell Xana to SDFU. So unlike Uma, who kind of goes 51-50 by the end of these episodes here, I feel like Xana gets some very contrasting story arcs where a lot of her intensity gets explained as she's witnessing. I think she said that she witnessed her mother's overdose when she was younger, and she felt like she enabled the situation. So, in a lot of ways, I kind of see Xana as the true villain of this season. Because not only is Uma, with God now, but they're actually trying to flesh out Xana as a true character here. I'm not completely sold because she's kind of giving me like still angry discount plain Jane energy a little bit here still. But Jack, I know your opinion is different here. What are your thoughts here? And are you Team Xana? Are you switching over to become the Xana, the president at this point?
Okay, so I don't like this idea of like if you're mean, you're necessarily a plain Jane what would the word be? Comparison. I think that
Hmm.
what they do is very different. I think we've had this talk before that like maybe plain Jane is like a little bit more lighthearted or funny when it comes to the shade she throws than Xana. But I think Xana comes from like a very understanding kind of, in my opinion, like backstory of like where all this is coming from because Xana is clearly a girl who's had to work for what she's gotten in her life. And then you have people who just don't seem very authentic being near her. Like Uma God, for example, who hasn't been authentic feeling to me in the slightest all season long. And I can't help but feel like nothing like I can't feel bad for her calling the shit out because no, all of the time she's saying things that I would say too. I'm not saying that she's necessarily backing it all up with being like the greatest competitor, but there's a lot of things that I'm thinking too that Xana says. I'm like, so I don't know if I would consider anyone truly the villain. Like definitely antagonist, I think is a great word that you used. She's definitely our antagonist of the season. Uma's kind of the shit stirrer who like claims she doesn't know what she's doing, which is really strange for someone who claims to be like, "Oh, I'm older, so I know better," but then does some shit that's like very infuriating or like, as Vixen would say, like pokes the bear. So I don't know. There's a lot to be said about this situation. We can get further into it later.
Yeah, I do agree with you to some degree. Like I said, I don't think I'm using the plain Jane thing is just, I mean, it's just the most relevant. comparison that he kind of
Right.
used at this point. So, and it does feel like in a lot of ways that some girls do kind of use that arc to kind of stick out, but I don't know. I do think I kind of agree with you in that point, just because a lot of Xana's willingness to kind of facilitate drama, it doesn't feel like there's that same playfulness. It just feels like she's just being honest with her opinion, and it's kind of, at least for me though, feeling a little bit more like a competitive insecurity thing that she's kind of like, okay, talking shit about people, so she builds herself up, but I don't think we really have seen Xana really again back it up. And I think that's where I think the issue lies to some degree, because even in this episode too, and we can kind of talk about the challenges here in a few moments, but um I don't know 100% if she's giving me what I need for someone who's going to be, talking that much smack about people, you know? Um, like, I just feel like there's a lot of other people that are maybe, like I said, the quiet confidence. We kind of talked about this last week here, where there's this theme of having a quiet confidence. There's other girls that I think are, they're saying less and letting their actions speak a little bit more. And I just want Xana to let her actions speak a little bit more, because if it had anything to do with what her actions were in this girl group challenge, girl, I was like, oof, wow. And let's talk about the girl group challenge actually here, because um, like I said, Xana definitely had a spectrum of performances this week, starting with her performance in this girl group. And this time we have a 90s theme. And then basically the entire episode 5 was dedicated to the 90s, which I thought was a lot of fun, with like the Saved by the Bell style opening and the change of the fonts and the confessionals. Did you like that change, Jack? You think it was fun at all?
I thought it was really fun to do this type of whole theme to the episode. It really felt like it felt like the editing really cared about like making us feel incorporated in the 90s theme of the episode. So I really enjoyed it actually. At first I was like, what is going on? And then when the episode started to develop, I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. Like now I get it. I'm convinced. It was great.
The editors are just having fun, and I enjoy that. I like when they kind of take a step back, and it feels like Canada's Drag Race is always going to be the one that kind of is going to experiment a little bit. So, no, I didn't mind it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I was feeling the nostalgia. Just could have used like maybe some slime, some Nickelodeon slime, and we would have been set. Would have been the whole episode. Um, but they continued this theme into their 90s songs, and basically the girl groups are split to two groups, one with the positive upbeat anthem Duh, and the other with the bitch track Not. Which song would you have picked, Jack?
So to no one's surprise, I would have gone with not. I
Shots.
love to, talk my shit and back it up. Um, Duh was a great song choice though too. I really thought when they first said it was nice, it was like, oh, it's over. But hearing it, I actually didn't mind it so much, and I do think there was like a chance to get a little shady, but like fun, playful shade in there in the Duh track. So like, it was great. It was like a good track. It just I vibed more with the not track.
Yeah, Not was definitely, I think, the catchier of the two, but I think you definitely could have. You're right. There are opportunities to use Duh to your advantage, but I think the way that the teams ended up getting split up here kind of maybe made that to a disadvantage to the girls in Team Duh, because it sort of ended up as like Team Buck and Stunt versus Team Park and Bark, as far as I was kind of looking at it. Because we have one team that's literally made up of like the dancers. We had, what was it, Michaela, Perla, Virgo, and Xana, and then the other team was Helena, Jaylene, Minnie, and Uma. And Uma got to pick the song for her group, choosing the positive song "Duh" because she won the mini challenge, which, just to kind of go off on a tangent with here for a second, I didn't think Uma was that funny. I thought she was just being very like over the top and distracting, and kind of giving like the same energy like Nymphia was giving in that bathroom challenge, where she was just overshadowing Dawn the whole time. It was just craziness. Like I felt for Helena there, because I felt like she was just being overpowered by just craziness, and she was reacting hilarious to me, but it was just like she didn't really get to do much because Uma was just kind of doing everything. Probably would have given it to Perla. It doesn't really matter much, but did you agree with the winner here? Did you like Uma in this challenge?
In The
Oh, the mini challenge with like where they did like the Price is Right themed, where they're like
oh,
showing off
oh,
the
okay.
products and whatnot, and she decided
Yeah,
to
no,
use the Suzanne Summers thing in for her jaw instead.
no, because I like feel like this is a very safe character choice that Uma does all the time. Personally, I feel like this is her whole character to begin with, so I wasn't really like gagging, but I'm also biased. I don't like Uma. I think she's fake, and I think that she's just boring and just does things differently and thinks that all drag is valid to the point of like mediocrity is fine
Ooh,
and should be accepted as the same level as like someone who puts a lot of time and talent in their drag. But that's just my personal opinion. It's not that Uma is like mediocre at everything she does. It's just I think she doesn't see a problem with mediocrity.
I think she has some okay ideas, but there's an implementation or like just how she implements things just don't feel like they connect with me. There's just a very large disconnect there, and I don't think we have to be. I don't think it's necessarily bias per se. Well, I mean, like I mean, obviously, there's some internal bias. Everybody has some internal bias there. So there's just some queens you're just not going to connect with. Not every queen is going to be your cup of tea. And I, yeah, I mean, if you want to call it that we're biased against Uma, sure, biased against Uma. But like
I'm
at the same
100%
time, though,
biased
too,
against Uma,
it's like if it's not
but
giving
she also
for
sucks.
me, we're gonna be honest about it. And I don't think Uma was really giving anything for me.
Yeah,
I'm just,
yeah.
I'm really trying to be like respectful about it though. I'm trying like it just wasn't like
Just let me be
she's
disrespectful
welcome.
about
Yeah,
it.
she's welcome to have her fans. I'm glad. I hope her lots of success. I just don't know if I'm going to be at one of her shows. Especially if it was kind of anything like it ended up happening here in this girl group, because honestly, all the girls from Team Duh were just not that great to me. Jack, do you have any thoughts overall on Team Duh?
I actually felt like Team Da was so interesting because I felt like Team Da once again we see Uma in the leadership role and it throws her team into the bottom again. And I'm just like, this is the fifth challenge, and in two of the challenges, we see the team leader who's come up with like all the ideas and all the like quotes. And I know people are gonna be like, well, Uma wasn't the team leader in the commercial, but she really was. They made her the team leader. They were like, why don't you make the team leader? And so here she was also the team leader, and I was like, these are some choices. I really felt like she set up her team to fail because they did a more difficult choreography by having to do things together as a group, as pairs, and so she really threw Jaylene under the bus there. And I think she also like inadvertent. I don't want to say inadvertent, actually. And Helene is automatically under the bus with Jaylene because Uma's driving the bus and she doesn't care who she's going over. So she chooses to pair up with Minnie, which we know Minnie might not have the most rhythm, but Minnie is a pit crew member from before, and so I do think Minnie has some experience in that term. But with Jaylene being the weakest dancer, I think whoever got paired with her was just out of luck, which surprise, surprise, both Jaylene and Helena end up in the bottom two or in the bottom three, which is something. And who's safe again? Oh, the team lead Uma is safe once again without any repercussions. Strange. So for
Yeah.
Da, I was very like, Helena had I think the best verse by far. Like Helena really killed it on those lyrics. I was like, she did her thing. It was just this whole partner dance thing that messed her up. And I don't think that was fair to put her in the bottom. That's my personal opinion, though.
Oh no, I agree with you. I felt like Helena was had definitely the strongest verse for me. I think Minnie might have maybe been the strongest overall out of the group, but like I said, Alina did have to kind of keep track of Jaylene, and unfortunately, Jaylene had probably one of the. I it didn't even feel like she was there. Like she didn't feel like she was present. Like it felt like she was
No,
kind of, for lack of a better words of saying it, it felt like she literally just had dementia during that performance because she didn't know where she was, who she was, what her name was, what song she was singing. Like there was just no connection whatsoever. I felt so bad, maybe more so for Helena because she kind of had to deal with it, but like I was actually kind of shocked. at how like just weird that whole thing turned out. And maybe it was the fact that the choreography was just so bad. That could probably be what it was because I wasn't very impressed by the choreography either. But like it was just very it was a very cringy performance. I didn't I probably won't go back and watch this one after
Well,
this season.
yeah. I mean, I don't mind most of the lyrics, but yeah, there was some performance issues on both teams as well. Let me just say that.
Oh yeah, well we could talk about the other team here too because I I say three of them did really well, and then Xana. I I don't I literally don't even have words for Xana's verse. Like that has got to be one of the just worst you know you hear people that say that they literally don't have rhythm. Like I don't even think Xana has heard music before. Like has she ever made a rhyme? Has she ever tried to make a poem? Like I, I nothing about the song she was trying to sing matched the tune, and then you have her dancing too, just that didn't match anything at all. Like as shocked as I was about all of Team Duh, I was even more shocked just by Xana's whole performance because I'm just like, what what had happened? Like, um,
I just
no, go for it because I'm literally I don't have any words. Like I'm still such in shock, and it happened like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so the songs are best friends forever kind of thing idea, and then the now is like, no way in hell are we actually best friends. Like, let's talk about the bullshit about us being best friends. And so like this energy is really good. And Xana's verse, a lot of people said it was bad, and I don't know how we got to the verse being bad. I don't think the verse was bad. I think it lacked her performance of lacking the rhythm and like the editors really like helping her out in terms of like I don't the editing of the song per se. I was like, just
Mm,
take the track and like move it up a beat or move it back a beat or
do
whatever it
not
had to
blame
be.
that
'Cause
on the edit, girl. That was
I'm
not
not
the
blaming it on
edit
the
of
edit.
that song.
I'm just saying that her verse isn't bad. It just needed to be put on the right beat of the like thing, right? Like her words made sense. You could get it there. It was just like there wasn't enough time for her to get the rhythm. So she is rhythmically challenged to an extreme that we have never seen before, I think. And I was like, oh, that's rough. But I will say, her verse was pretty slay. Like, all tea, all shade, just the lyrics alone. I was like, we could have made this work super hard. It clearly did not. I don't think it was a bad verse per se. I just think it was terribly performed. And therefore, she does deserve her bottom spot. Um, that being said, it is one of those weird, like, all of a sudden, we don't have like a one girl group saving the girl group not like it's weird because we have so many times where sometimes a girl group is safe and even if there's a person who did really bad on that team and other times we don't, which is just really strange for me to see. um
Yeah, they do choose to
I
pick and choose when they want it to be a team challenge or whatnot. But I also think Canada maybe might be a little bit more fair when it comes to that. I feel like they didn't judge in teams last time either, whereas like
they
some
didn't
like UK does, like for sure.
Yeah, they definitely didn't do it on like the first couple team challenges either. So I respected the consistency of it. I just think it's like it's always strange because it always feels like there isn't a set. Like I feel like it should be consistently always in teams or consistently always not in teams. But I digress. Michaela did amazing. Virgo did amazing. Perla did pretty good. Personally, I just don't think Perla was anywhere close to Virgo and Michaela in my terms of performance. I think she did an amazing job performing. I just don't think it was like if Michaela and Virgo are tens, she's a nine. So there's a clear distinction there where I'm like, you will not be at the like top two, but you did amazing. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
And I think this group overall like did the best. Whereas like the backdoor girls, I don't know, it was something. Um
mhm. Can we also talk about
that
how they
being,
reused that name from Global All Stars too? They totally stole Kitty Skyclaus's girl group name. How dare they?
I mean, this was filmed before that, right? Or at the same
I
time,
don't know. I
maybe. I
think they're
don't know.
probably around the same timing.
Yeah, so we can't really like necessarily call it that, but still. I loved it. I liked that they were doing that. I love that the other group did VMXP. You know, like we've seen a lot of girl groups and stuff use initials, so I'm a big fan. Um, the girl group challenge I really loved. Again, I think that there was some mess going on, and the bottom three feels mostly correct in my mind.
I would
So
say it's correct. I mean, as much as I would probably make it a bottom four and stick Uma down there too, like,
I
and
couldn't put
maybe
Helena
stick
down
Uma
there,
there instead of Helena. Yeah, I could probably see that too. But
especially after
like,
that runway.
yeah, yeah. I
Uma had
mean,
the worst runway, and she set her team up for failure.
oh, I mean, to be fair, and we can just kind of talk about it right now here too, but I wouldn't say anybody had like a standout runway other than like Michaela and Virgo, personally. Michaela, without a doubt, had the best runway this season or this episode, so like it makes sense. Full circle moment for me getting the win here. Absolutely, Virgo definitely had the second best look. I think everybody else
Mhm.
was probably together, and then Uma definitely last. I don't even get the reference of what she's going for here, which is kind of on par with most of Uma's things here that I just don't get the reference.
We have not seen a good Uma runway this whole season, so I'm not expecting anything yet. Um,
Yeah, agreed.
well, her "You Oughta Know Me" runway was okay. I'll give her that. Like, give the credit where credit is due, but other than that, no good Uma runway.
Was that the skin one? Oh no, that was time and place. Which
Yeah,
was
that was
the
time and
oh
place.
her yeah. It was I mean it was a little kind of as far as like the design goes. But it was a nice look. It was definitely probably her best look that
It
she
was
had
definitely her
for sure.
best look, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll give
uh,
you that. We'll say that. I will say though, I was slightly going into this Beaver decision with our bottom three, assuming that Michaela might give it to Jaylene just because, obviously the first few episodes there was that strong focus on like a trans sisterhood it felt like that they were building. Um, but I can't say I was surprised either that she decided to play it, I guess, fair and give Helena the beaver because I didn't think she deserved to really be in the bottom either. So, did you think that there might be a possibility that Helena could have ended up in the bottom here, or did you think it was a Jaylene versus Santa lip sync for sure?
I thought it was pretty guaranteed it was Jaylene versus Xana. The only thing that had me a little like gaggy at one point was how Xana was really fighting for herself and really like trying to put it out there like I deserve to be here. I'm doing my best. I was on your team. I was trying it and it wasn't like I wasn't trying and blah blah blah. And there was some drama, let's not forget, in the workroom during Untucked. And I especially thought like at one point I was like, "Well, would she consider using it on Jaylene?" And then I thought about how the last episode, Jaylene straight up said, "Oh, I'd use it on Sanjina, not Michaela." And I was like, "See, that to me is a cut, clear, distinct. Anytime I have the chance to save you, I will not be saving you because you won't have my best interest in mind because you picked that bitch over me. And the moment that I'm not your number one, you're nothing to me on the inside." So I was like, you know what? As far as
Mm.
it goes, like I respect any kind of gameplay that actually has a strategy component to it. So I was kind of here for like the little dramaticness, but I do think picking Helena was not only the correct decision, but also what actually is going to end up helping her the most in the show or as they go on. Because if it were me, I believe Helena has the best chance of winning because she's been in the top so many times. And let's not act like she did terrible in this challenge because she definitely didn't deserve a bottom two placement.
No, I agree. Ultimately, I think the bottom two is correct with Jailing Time and Xana having to lip sync to "Here Comes the Sunshine" by Love Inc. Thought it was a pretty good lip sync. Nothing like amazing, but it was good. I was entertained. Um, but it felt like I gotta say I was shocked kind of just the whole time because it felt very strange that we were losing Jaylene here. It didn't feel
Yeah,
like going into this like it was something I expected. Like I feel like going into girl group challenges, we kind of expect probably the girls of a certain age are probably gonna just naturally unfortunately struggle just because of the physicality of it all. But like it just didn't it never crossed my mind that Jaylene was going to be anything other than finalist, honestly. She had
Right.
so much of the important stories of the season. The first few episodes focused on her so much, but something about this kind of clicked for me though, and how it actually her arc feels very correct in a lot of ways. Because if we kind of flash back to like the most emotional moment of the season, which was where Jaylene passes off her regalia to Xana, I feel like there's so much more of a deeper storyline here now with Xana being the one to say Jen lead home. Like it's
Yeah.
kind of crazy in a lot of ways that that's how it ended up being. Because never expected that. But I gotta say for her getting eighth place, Jillian still kind of feels like a winner to me in a lot of ways. Like she was one of the strongest people in this cast without a doubt. So it feels like she left before her time. Do you have any thoughts here on Jaylene's elimination here?
Um, I do and I don't agree with you. I do feel like she was a strong competitor. I feel like she was lacking in a few areas. Not like on the runway per se, but like I think where she lacked specifically was the energy level during performances. I think if we look back at the playoffs, we kind of saw her. She had a fun little a couple moments in San Francisco, but there was a couple times where I lost her energy, which is really what put her loss to Helena as like being very correct to me. But then after I would say after her like bounce back into like being in the top from week one to being in the bottom essentially in episode three, and then being the back in top in the in episode four. When it came to episode five, it was like she either has to step up and show up or she's going home. And the only other option I saw here was her possibly getting a second save if like the world like came to it, and but I just didn't think with the possibility of the bottom three it made sense for her to be saved again. And I think at this point everyone who's gotten a save kind of has to then show up in the lip sync at one point or the other. So unfortunately we see her going home on a performance challenge that we'd already seen her kind of struggle in a little bit, even though people assumed that the lip sync was in her favor because of the song. And then she also gets home sent home on another performance lip sync. So like all in all, kind of like three performance challenges in a row. It was kind of like the writings on the wall. She was really important for the first half of the season, and I think she's a great Miss Congeniality. And I'm not saying she could never come back and win. I just think there was something she wasn't fully committing to in my mind, and I don't know what it was per se, but I think she did a great job. I really enjoyed her as a contestant. I think she should have gone further than Uma, but well, okay, I'm not even. It's not even me being hateful. I just really don't see why she's here. I think she's filler,
I mean, we
but
could talk about that in our how we'd rank the Canada 5 video, which I'm sure we'll do at some point. I'm actually kind
yeah,
of excited to do it because I think ours will probably end up a lot different in a few ways. So, but
I'm sure it will. I don't know why.
I can't imagine why at all. Well, now that we're in such a sad mood, y'all, it's about to get even sadder because episode 6 could possibly have one of the worst reading challenges in Snatch Games of like all time. Like, I really don't even know where to kind of begin with this because it felt like every single girl on this cast had like amnesia, had no idea this challenge was coming, like they've never seen the show before, and they were like never not even prepared at all whatsoever. Like a few people felt like they had semblances of ideas here and there, but oh, oh,
Hey, there was a concept of a plan.
I mean, there was a concept of a plan of an idea that they thought about that morning, after they figured
Yeah.
out what the challenge
Well,
was, but um,
everyone had a backup and needed a backup for their backup of their original backup, but didn't have it apparently.
um, uh, do you agree, Jack, with the sentiment overall that this is
Um,
probably one of the worst in history for both of these two types of challenges here?
you know what I'm gonna say? I'm gonna say it. It is one of the worst, like, Snatch Games in history. It is one of the worst reading challenges, but I have to tell you, we've been having a lot of flop Snatch Games and a lot of flop reading challenges, and I think it comes down to the fact that the more you try to prepare for Snatch Game, the easier it is to get in your head. So, like, yes, you have to prepare for Snatch Game, but it's too many of these moments where people are just trying to force a joke or trying to force a moment or completely freeze up Virgo. We saw what you did, girl. Um,
Hmm.
like no hate, but like, come on, that was and she said it herself. She knew, and so I'm not trying to beat a dead horse. I'm just saying that like that is one of the worst performances I've ever seen in a snatch game of all time. But also, if we're being 100, like these reading challenges, it's about wit, it's about making fun of each other, but like in a lovingly sister kind of way. No one did that well except for Helena. And then when we get to the snatch game, I know we have differences of opinions. I think it was a very clear cut winner. I think there was one person who was giving, there was one person who was really trying to commit to the character the whole time and landed most of their jokes and also interacted with others on the panel as well as others in the stands with them without really breaking character, even if her accent was a mess. And I just want to say, defending this, I've seen a million times where a girl has done an accent that was not correct and they get praised for it. So if anyone brings that shit up, like check example 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 kind of thing from past Snatch games we've seen. Because we know we've all seen it. Don't act like we haven't. I've seen a million bitches do a wrong accent and still get praised.
I mean,
Like,
you're not
all to
wrong.
y'all.
You're not wrong in that aspect, but it just felt like for me, there was no clear winner here. Like it feels like we had four very safe performances, and then three terrible WTF, what the hell is going on here performances, if we could even classify them as that. Like for me, in order to really be considered a true winner of the challenge, it would have to be something where I could pick you up, stick you in another snatch game, and you would still probably win. I don't think you stick any of these girls in any other snatch game anywhere else. None of them are winning. Safe, max, best, possibly for all of them. But like, even like the people that had some ideas here were still missing out on other portions. Like, yeah, I know that, like for example, Helena, her Jennifer Tilly, had probably the strongest character concept, but she didn't have any
Hmm.
jokes whatsoever.
Yeah, she had
Whatsoever.
like one joke and then it was just characterization good. Rough. But I think I disagree with you about the how you have to win other Snatch games, only because I think when we look at it like that, you're expecting the highest level Snatch game performances constantly because you
Not
can't put someone.
necessarily. I'm expecting
Well, hold
someone to
up.
just be considered a top. If they're a top here, I would well, if they win this, I would
That's
expect them to be a
hard though, because
top somewhere
some
else,
Snatch games,
honestly.
like we have a lot of Snatch games where we see people like top 4 or 5 do extremely well, and it kind of comes down to a why is this girl in the third place spot? Why wasn't this girl in the top? You know, like we have arguments about it a lot of times. Not
And
like
all of
us.
them would probably beat all of the girls in this snatch game.
And I agree with you. But here's the other thing. Here's the flip of the Snatch game. We have those Snatch games, and then we have Snatch games that are similar-ish to this. Not that there's usually we have like 1 or 2 girls that really stand out and be funny, and then we are prying to find a girl to get a third place. Like we know a girl did haha funny for a third place performance kind of thing. We have so many of those snatch games, especially recently. And I will say that although like Xana's snatch game isn't getting anyone's like top 10 best snatch game performances of all time or even like of Canada's all time probably. We're not like, well,
Guaranteed.
I mean, look what you're playing with though. Put her against the other girls and we're like, "Oh no, baby. There's no one here, baby. No one can do this." Like
I will
none of the
say,
other girls really showed up. I mean,
yeah,
I
I
loved
think she
Minnie,
probably would
but
have had
she
like better
missed a few
banter.
things.
Xana probably would have had better banter because she had really good banter with other girls. So I will say that. Like, if you stick her
Yeah,
in another
that is
snatch game,
something new.
the banter she would have had with other girls probably would have been a lot better. I will say that. So if that's why we're counting her the win, sure. I just feel like Minnie and Perla made me laugh more. I think Perla's only downside, honestly, was the fact that her Mary-Kate Olsen was just really low energy. Like as like but the banter she had with Minnie over the cigarette was probably my
That
favorite
was
part of the whole thing. Like that
I
was
agree with you. That was the best part of the whole Snatch game, but that was one singular joke, and that was the only thing that made me remember Perla's character. And it's not fully Merla's fault because she also picked a character that was very flat. She picks a character that has one thing and can't go past it. And that's kind of like choices, but like also she didn't deserve to be in the bottom either, and she didn't.
no, not at
She
all.
wasn't. Well, technically we would have never known, I guess, because of the whole new twist that they brought out
No.
of this.
We
But
would have known,
I
girl.
can't.
We would have
I
known.
mean, I agree with you. I
We
agree
would
with you.
have known.
But
If
have we
anything,
not seen
all that
some
would have
bullshit
happened is
before?
that probably would have happened here is it would have been a Xana, Mini, Perla top three. Helena would have been safe, and then the other three would have been the bottom. Or they would have probably
Yeah,
put Helena,
I
based off of the fact that we ultimately get a bottom three here, maybe Helena would have been bottom four, but she would have been safe regardless. Like, there's just no
yeah,
way
I agree with
bottom
you,
three
but
was not going to not be this bottom three.
I never trust it because every time I will tell you what Canada does this the best though. Canada does do their judging the best in my opinion of all the franchises that are done in English. Canada has the best judging in my opinion. Now, does that mean they're free from mistakes? No, but again, drag is subjective because it's art. But this this was the most clear-cut thing I could have ever seen in my life. But I always wait and I don't hold my breath because I know what some of these judges do.
Well,
Um,
let's go ahead
thank
and
God.
pick apart these bottom three, because girl, these were. I don't want to talk shit, but I do want to talk some shit. I
Yes, we will
really
be talking
do.
shit.
Because
Let it be
like,
known.
wow, wow. So our bottom three end up being Michaela Couture as Oprah Winfrey, the Virgo Queen as Judge Lynn Toller from Divorce Court, and Uma God as Dee Bruning. And oh, where do you even start here?
Let's start with the best
Michaela.
performance. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll start with Michaela because I see where at least Michaela came in with like some clear ideas. Like the car bit, I had a smile on my face during that. Like I was laughing, but I was like, okay, she's trying. She's trying. We're
Hmm.
having some fun here. The
There was a
issue
commitment to the
was,
character.
well, there was a commitment to the character, but then there was like a very clear like in this, it's like you're supposed to say yes and Michaela was just going no. She refused to give any sort of actual responses to like any of the jokes. And it's like, girl, like we know you can make a fool of yourself. Like just say anything at that point. Like, how are you gonna like anytime she asks you a question, be like, I think I'm gonna keep that to myself. Or like, okay, let's just cut
Uh,
off the lifeline
I
immediately.
do want to give her a little bit more credit that she didn't say no immediately. She said yes and cut. I think she said yes and cut kind of thing because I think Virgo did the straight up no. Like
Okay,
straight up
true.
said, I'm not even gonna answer half the time. And but as far as Michaela going, like I think this is one of those I picked someone I look up to. I was afraid to make a fool of them. I tried to do a bit that I had ready, which was the car thing that we all know, like you get a car, you get a car, you get a car. It was cute that she had the underneath her underneath the chair thing because like that's the Oprah thing. But like Oprah is so big and over the top at times, and she comes from a very long history of fighting her way up, and there is some controversy around Oprah that I won't get into, but there is layers to the character. I think once her jokes didn't go as well as she thought they would, specifically the one she had prepared, like the car, she just kind of like
One joke she had prepared.
well, I think specifically like that's like a bit that she was like, I am going to do this bit and I'm going to do it whenever I feel like it, when I think I can fit it in, no matter what, and I'm gonna make sure I do it this instead of like letting things happen naturally. So unfortunately, she just gets in her head and then she's kind of like, I don't know what to do, or I don't know how to be respectful and funny, and she just kind of overthinks it, and we see her downfall because of it. But I mean, you see that, or you see the girl who's very committed to her character and it plans out all these jokes and continuously throws them at us, even though we're asking, begging her to stop because it's so uncomfortable and so annoying and so ugly of a performance.
Oh my God, are you
And
talking about
so
Uma?
I don't know how you knew that, but yes, I am.
I'm kind of
Um,
psychic like that.
yeah. Wait. Is that Jaden Dior Fierce? What do I see?
Vision. You're gonna be in the bottom, girl. Um, yeah, you make a great point there about Uma and the fact that like she literally came in with these planned jokes, but like they were so uncomfortable. And just there was just the way that she was just acting with the character in general was just very like I
Oh my
didn't
god.
yeah, I didn't want to watch it. Like I'm just like this is making me very uncomfortable. Like you are like this isn't fate. This is just weird. And it's like she's being built up as the comedy queen and I'm like, girl, I have not laughed at any of your jokes this
Not a
entire
damn time.
season. And I'm like, maybe she's funny like in like the workroom setting, but as far as it came
Nope.
to any of the challenges, maybe something off camera, I don't know. Well, I mean, these girls
Nope.
were fawning over Uma from the start, though. Don't you remember when they all walked in the workroom and everyone's like, "Oh my God, Uma's daddy," and I was like, "What?
That's
Huh?
different than being funny.
Who is having your children?" No, I'm just saying they've been over like all over Uma from like
Yes,
day
they
one,
have.
and I'm just like,
I agree with
I
you.
don't,
She has
I
talked
don't
up a
see
big
it.
game. She's the candidate on the paper when you're hiring people that looks really good on paper, but doesn't actually deliver in the role. And well, you'll find 14 other excuses as to why they didn't do their job well. All
I
tea,
have
all
a
shade.
feeling though that like maybe this could be like a really good learning experience for Uma now that she kind of could see herself in action and see kind of what she's doing and kind
Definitely.
of how she overthinks things because it's like sometimes I think you kind of think that you're doing one thing, but you clearly think another because clearly she went into the snatch game in I mean, sorry, into Untucked thinking that she was gonna win to some degree, and we're like, what? It was saying like, what snatch game were you on, girl?
Oh,
Because clearly it was not the one that was being filmed.
she had some feelings about it, but the thing about the Uma Snatch game that we saw was she was so committed to her character, she refused any kind of adaptability, any flexibility, any ability to make a joke that wasn't off the cuff. She only went with what she had pre-planned. She brought these sponges, and at first it was like, oh, ha, like you have sponges, that's your character. And I was like, I don't know this person. And then I was like, is this that girl that did like the 90s commercial, like buy your kid this toy thing? I guess. And I was like, okay, I'm not a fan. I wanted to click the channel. It was like I was trying to click the channel to see what was on the next channel when the commercial came on. Like that was what it was giving me, and then it got worse. And what was even worse was her sponges were best used not by her but by Xana to make a joke about them,
Yeah,
and it was like just a complete like she had the exact like material right there in front of her. She could have bounced off things with Xana, but she chose not to. Possibly because she also hates Santa and they have that kind of tension there. And, she can say she doesn't, but girl, I've seen the clips. I saw the footage. You saw the footage.
I
There's a hate there.
mean, can we just flash forward really quick to Untuck again, where she was basically trying to get saved with the beaver by telling Xana that you know what it's like to talk a big game and suck at things. That's what happened to me. And I was
Right? I was
like,
like,
there you
oh,
go, sticking your foot in your mouth again.
well, I
Like,
mean, look, and here's the thing too with this performance. It was super uncomfortable. She kept trying to push it. She had these props, and I wanna flash to Minnie really quickly, who is I think our runner up of the snatch game. If I had to pick one, I think that Minnie came in with this prop idea. It didn't go perfectly well, but then she continued through with it, and she made a kind of a laugh out of it. She took that and said, "Okay, cool," and then she made it into further jokes about being a little bit homosexual, which is fun because she uses a character that like none of us actually know. So like she really like took a note from what happened from her like book of dongs that she made and went with it. And this is what Uma should have done. This is what you do if your prop doesn't work or something doesn't. You don't keep relying on that goddamn prop to get you through the snatch game. You adapt, you become flexible, and you try to change it. And so
Well,
this is why Uma deserves her spot in the bottom. And surprisingly enough, as much as we have bad talked her, she wasn't even the worst Snatch Game performer, which brings us to
Virgo,
the front
yes.
runner.
Oh my gosh. What? Go ahead. Just keep going, Jack. Just keep going because you're on a roll.
Okay. Her name is Miss Toller. It's Judge Toller. Judge Toller is known for these funny little quips and moments where a lot of the time it's the people that she's judging who are being somewhat disrespectful or rude in the courtroom, and she gets them together real fast. And so that's kind of what we like about her as a character. And so I had a lot of high expectations, but in the most unjudged Toller like expressions possible, Virgo decides to make Judge Toller a pointer queen of a Snatch Game performance. It is literally the book definition of yes, no, no, yes. Like, we are just seeing the one level of human function that makes you believe that this person has the same comprehension skills as the level, like, the 1980s robot who could say yes or no. And that is all. Literally, Brooklyn was like, "Do you want to tell me about that?" And she said, "Yes, no." And like there was nothing. She would not bounce off anything. She didn't try to give us any kind of funny moments. It was like the very beginning didn't work, and she froze and she stopped doing anything, and she was just okay with being on the train tracks and ready for that train to hit her full speed. She wanted out of there so fast, and I get it. Being someone who has had to deal with being in front of people before and having to be on a stage, it can be a very scary thing, and stage fright is totally fair. But this was not okay. This was oh so bad. This is actually worse than Brooklyn's performance of Celine or equally as bad Evie's performance on the same season of Whoopi Goldberg because they did try at times, though I would say Brooklyn was more similar to that of Virgo's performance, where it was more shutting down slowly but surely, where Virgo had immediately hit the brakes and stopped. Virgo gave us nothing to judge, which means she gave us nothing to perform to, which means she got a score of 0 immediately.
The moment that gets me is literally the moment where I forget like what the question was. Oh, Brooklyn goes, I bet you've had some crazy people come into your courtroom, right? She goes, yeah, all the time. And literally just stares at Brooklyn. And then goes, oh, do you want me to tell you about it? I was just like, wow, Virgo, you are you are committed to lip syncing this episode because like she literally made no effort to even try to get out of it. And it's like, yeah, you make a good point about like sometimes it's just like it's hard once you get in your head to get out of it, but like I think you could tell the people that end up just trying to have fun with the situation are the people that are ultimately successful. She was not having fun. She didn't want to be there. She was ready. You were right. She was ready for the whole thing to be over so she could just go ahead and get on her alien costume and get ready for the lip sync. Um, but yeah, like all three bad for all separate reasons. But it feels correct that they ultimately are a bottom three, even though we have the ultimate gag in the moment I've been dying to talk about this whole time now. Because in the first time in her history, the winner of Snatch Game was announced at the end of Snatch Game, which I was like, what? This is like a Survivor 36. Let's start reading the votes while the jury's there before we even know who the winner is, kind of thing with the tiebreaker. I'm like, okay, we're switching it up. And they decide to give Xana the win, which we've kind of discussed here, and she receives the Wooden Beaver instead of the Golden Beaver. And Not only did this Wooden Beaver have the power to make the wind go to Xana's head, it also gave her the power to start the chain of safety to determine the bottom three. And this was a gag because, like I said, it's the last time the beaver was going to be used. So for them to shake it up again at the last second was crazy and so smart just to keep them on their toes. And it's not even really like that, I would say, huge of a twist in a lot of ways because, like, yes, they can determine the bottom three, but they could still lip sync their way out of it, right? And what was also kind of gaggy to me, though, too, as well, was that it was going to be a bottom three. So, like, there was this whole kind of question in the back of my head. I'm like, are we getting double elimination? Like, could they possibly like use this as a strategic moment to get rid of like two front runners here? And ultimately, like I said, even though there was a lot of drama leading up to it, we do get a kind of a fair, I'd say, assessment here ultimately of how the beaver goes down here with Xana deciding to repay Perla, who saves Helena, who's been much more consistent than everybody, who decides to save Minnie, who had the stronger snatch game of those left. Still on the edge of my seat though, because I was waiting for one of these girls to pull off a strategic move. Now that we know though that the wooden beaver is at play here, Jack. One, did you like the twist? And two, do we expect them maybe in Canada 6 to use this in a much more strategic manner?
Well, I think so. There's a con to using the beaver in a strategic manner like that. We saw season 4 of Drag Race Canada where there was a lot of issues with the use of strategy in the Golden Beaver and how that didn't exactly play out in everyone's favor. Um, we saw a large alliance happen and run the rest of the season pretty much. I think in this twist, you didn't have the same safety net of using it one time, then one time, then one time. Whoever you gave it to was going to then determine what they wanted to do with it, who was then going to determine what they wanted to do with it. So if you wanted to be strategic, you had to kind of make an alliance, right? You could have, if you wanted to per se, gone off of the girl group challenge, like how season 3 or season 4 girls from Canada's Drag Race did, where they were like, I just want to save the girls that are on my girl group challenge. And, that was a possibility, but clearly that wasn't what happened. I think here what made the most sense was unless you're going to have some shady backdoor deals, kind of like talking about it first, you can't really pull this off because what is Xana going to do? Be like, hey girls, let me bring a couple of you over here and let's talk about it. Like that's so sus. That's so weird. And what's Xana going to do? Take everyone for a one-on-one convo? Like, I think this strat is really fun, but because it's so unexpected, you either have to immediately do some bullshit, like pulling off the worst performer just to cause chaos. But at the same time, Virgo being the worst performer is also the best performer so far and the front runner of the whole season. So it didn't make sense if you wanted to do that strategically either. So overall, I think it just got used in what was everyone's uh best decision for their selves or what they thought was the most fair so that way no one can accuse them of being awful. Like I think Xana giving it back to Perla makes sense, completely understandable. Perla giving it to Helena because Helena has been consistent in the competition and doesn't deserve to be in the bottom. Even if her snatch game wasn't as strong as Minnie's. And then Helena and Minnie have kind of been, I don't know if I would say they're necessarily friends, but they've been on a lot of the same teams together at least, so I'd have to assume that there's some bond there. But also, Minnie did the best in the snatch game outside of Xana, so I mean, she kind of had to save her, right? Like, how fucked up would that have been for Helena to send Minnie into the bottom three to go home? And also, are you worried about Minnie in a lip sync challenge? I'm not.
Mm,
So, like, no offense, like, I think Minnie is a great queen. We've seen her perform extremely well this season. But if there's someone left in this competition that I have to lip sync again, like I'm picking Minnie, right? Like that's strategy right there, baby. Pick the girl who's got even less rhythm than Xana.
yeah, I would agree with that. And honestly, they were kind of doing the Lord's work anyway here because, they sent in our two lip sync assassins to just make things correct here. Um, I will say though, while I was enjoying watching Michaela and Virgo individually, I could not get into watching this three-way lip sync at all. Not only are they already dressed as aliens, so it's already distracting, but then them like randomly cutting to Uma, who's just like doing whatever. I don't know.
Girl,
It was hard to watch. It was just hard to watch. I don't like three-way lip syncs. Um,
it wasn't even the fact that it was a three-way lip sync. It was Uma's performance gave, "Hey girls, I'm here to be the wingman to show you the other two girls."
well, there was
I
that
was
moment where
like,
she decided to like run the camera and like record the camera on this. I'm like, are you just giving up here, girl? Because I'm like, you're just basically saying that they're doing everything and you're now recording it.
you remember in season 8 of Drag Race where Thorgy Thor and Chichi Devane have to lip sync, and at the end, Thorgy like grabs Chichi Devane's hand and like basically presents her to the judges. Like that's what it was, but the whole lip sync is what it felt like. It was like her just being like, "I know I've lost this lip sync. I'm just gonna act a damn fool per usual and go home with my head high." And I was like, "Who said your head was gonna be held high when you lost this lip sync?" was my first question. I was like, "Bitch, where?" Um, but finally, this annoying ass bitch goes home, and I'm so excited. But I think we missed one of the most important things was the breakdown that she had in the Untucked, where she proves once again she's delusional, doesn't live in reality, and is a bitter Betty, and actually has a lot of negative feelings that she might actually show hidden, kind of thing. And this time we finally get her to break that character that she's having and finally just really say what's on her mind and not try to lie to us about it for once.
That was
Would you like to go
definitely,
off about it?
like I said, true colors exposed. Um, yeah, I kind of, I wouldn't say, yeah, I don't know. We've talked a lot about Uma in this podcast. We've talked a lot about her this season. I feel like my feelings about her are pretty clear here. I don't think I need to say anything more. And she's gone. And with her gone. We have
So you're
a
not going to talk
very
about her breaking down and talking
oh,
about
I
how the
kind of already
is
talked about it
amazing?
earlier with the fact that she,
I know, but
like I there's only so much I could really I could,
I want to beat the
get
dead
into
horse,
about it.
okay?
No, I'm
I
like
wanted to beat the dead
there's
horse.
only so
I
much.
wanted the
At
dead
this
horse.
point, the dead ostrich that she decided to bring on the runway last week. I don't.
That was disrespectful
Yeah,
to everyone.
I'm just like I said. There's just a taste level with her. I didn't get. There's just a personality disconnect with her that I didn't really get. There's clearly a personality disconnect, kind of with a lot of the girls too. Like it just I don't know. I appreciate what she brought to the season as far as like the presence of being like a someone for me to enjoy rooting against. But like
Period.
um yeah, I don't know. I don't like for risk without saying like without, being too harsh on her. Like I said,
Could never
I hope
be.
that she uses this as a learning experience because I do see potential there. I just it's just again it's something that not my personal cup of tea, and not every queen has to be. Um, what I've learned in my lifetime is, you don't have to have everybody like you because you're not going to like every person. So sorry if people are offended by the fact that we don't like Uma, but it is what it is.
Girl, I'm not sorry, and I'm not saying sorry for none of it. You can hate
Well,
me and like Uma.
right, that's true. That's true. Yeah,
Hate me like
yeah.
Renegade.
Oh, that's
Renegade's
true.
like the
I'll be the
Paula
nice one.
over here.
I'm the Paula Abdul. Actually, I'd say I'm more like
You really are
I'm
the
the
Paula
Randy.
Abdul.
I'm the Randy dog. Okay, no, I'm the
Okay.
Paula.
And I'm
I'm
over here being Simon, being like, she sucks. Next.
well. Let's go ahead and talk about these runways really quick though, because I really want to I feel like these looks are all really good, except for one. Actually, I would say my bottom is very clear. Very clearly Uma. And then after that, I would say probably Virgo. there are elements about hers that I like, but I can't get into a lot of it. And it kind of is giving me like flashes to when Helena did like the devil look, kind of very similar in like the green and red. But I kind of think now that I've seen them both, Helena did it a little better. Um, Elements about Michaela's and Xana's that I like as well too. But I don't think that their looks are again as cohesive as maybe Perla's or Minnie's, and I think those were the two that I enjoyed the most. And I really liked Helena's makeup. Oh my God, her makeup was stunning. Um, but I guess I would say Perla maybe would be my favorite just because I like that she kind of went in a different direction than just, Alien. She kind of went like Dr. Seuss Alien and kind of like the creativity there. But like it's honestly really hard for me to pick a number one out of this group because there's elements of like all of them that I really like, but I don't think anybody gave me completely a look that I'm like 100% love. Like I like the big gigantic like the presentation that Xana gave, or not the presentation, the mask on her for her xenomorph. But outside of that, I don't get why the xenomorph is pink, but then like she's in a black bodysuit. Like disconnect. Um, and then like I like the blue and silver that Michaela has going on. Like I like the color combination, but again, there's a little disconnect with the makeup. I think for me too. So um, ultimately, I'd say everybody probably gets like a B plus. I was enjoying it. That was a good runway. Jack, I know you had some strong feelings, so go off, Queen.
Yeah, so obviously we talked about it. Oh my God has the worst look, and I don't even think her look is that bad. I think it's just the makeup and the undergarment bodysuit. I don't mind the color. I know you didn't like the color of it, but I just really hated the
Oh, it's
lack of
baby poop green.
detailing. Okay, it is like that color,
It's
but I think
giving
that kind of
baby
works.
poop.
It kind of works for Alien, but what my biggest issue is the bodysuit just lacked any kind of detail. It just looked like stretched fabric placed on her body, and we put a rhinestone here and a hem here, and we called it a day. Whereas just slightly above her for me, well, further above her than shouldn't say slightly, is Michaela. I think you mentioned it. The makeup's a little, and I found her bodysuit to be a little lacking. I think more well placed stripes of the blue and better placed rhinestones, but I really wasn't a fan of the dress going on. I thought it looked very basic. I know it kind of gave you that Fifth Element opera singer who I really enjoyed, but it was like the Temu version or the Dollar Store version. I wasn't feeling it that much. Um, I actually liked Perla's a little bit more than Virgo's, but barely. And I just think Perla's my big issue with Perla for me here is just these thigh or not thighs, I'm sorry, these tights were just so ugly to the eye. Yes, they matched the hair color, I get it, but there was nothing on them. It was just some like hot pink tights. And then the arm, like the gloves or the sleeves, like there was attempt to put something on there. It was a little gaudy, which I love. Um, but I felt like there was no attention to the detail for the legs, and so it kind of like threw me a little for a loop. I do agree with what you're saying about Virgo. I think the biggest issue is the mask and the makeup not fully integrating, but I did like her look. I thought this was fun. I thought it looked like, she was giving us model Alien. I was kind of living for it. I thought it was fun. I really, really loved Minnie's. Like this whole idea of like there barely any scraps left of this dress that she had on. This little headpiece she has is fun. The bodysuit is well contoured, and oh my god, Helena's is so perfectly done. Helena's is amazing. This purple, the makeup, the hair, the nipple horns, just everything here is so much fun. The rib cage on the outside of the black like peplum before we get the gown, and I think this was so much more well thought out. But I really have to give it to Xana this week. I think that this whole inspiration using the alien queen and the tail going out and the small arms protruding from the chest as if it was coming out of the body, it's really something here. This is This is amazing to me. Like, I love it. There's even the teeth in there. Like, I understand why there's a disconnect, why you're not even the biggest fan of it. I totally get that. But for me, it just makes so much sense of it emerging from a body when I look at the cat suit, so I know what's going on here. This is a nod to a horror original. This is a nod to something that just has so many important like references and just like so much to say. I'm also a big fan of Dragula, so like this is giving me my Dragula vibes. So I was here for it. I loved it. It was my number one of the week. Helena, a very close second. I'll accept Helena over this, but that's the only person I would ever put over this.
It's probably be a
Also,
Helena,
we
mini
love
Xana ranking, I'm
Xana.
thinking at this point. Maybe with Perla. Like I get what you're saying about Xana. Like I love the details in Xana's. There's just I get why she's doing like the chest burster thing, right? I do get that. But like I'm still just confused why like if she's chest bursting, right? Why does she have the tail out too? Did she also tail burst? Is that something that they do? Do they also shoot through through someone's butt and make a tail? Because not something I
No, it's
remember
like
happening on Aliens, but I'd be fine with that being like the how that works. Because I mean, we always
it's
love
just
the anal
coming in two
option,
different
but
forms. Like you have to
it's
like the
just a
whole
slight
ribcage
nitpicking. I
tail
think
is
personally for me, this is
so
all it is.
good.
Like a lot of fun details on it though, so I might have to I might reevaluate it. I consider putting it a little higher. Like I said, the top four for me: Perla, Helena, Xana, and Minnie all did really great this week as far as the runway. So for as far as I'm concerned, they could kind of go in any order. I know there's a lot of people that are like, you put number two over number three, but I'm like, girl, like top three is still great. Like, come on now. Like,
Wait, I forgot to mention the most
oh,
important thing.
go girl.
Xana's shoes are
Oh, the
everything.
T.
The
Yeah, the
teeth
teeth
on the
are
back of
fun.
Xana's shoes. I didn't talk about anyone's shoes this week, and that felt like a sin. But her shoes, amazing.
Okay, Jack. Well, we're a little bit over an hour, but we have one final thing we have to get into because you know what? The preview for the next episode, I am literally so excited to see what is going to go down because, as y'all know, we see a shoeless Michaela run out of the workroom only for someone to yell at the top of their lungs that they are done. Jack, I'll let you have the final thoughts this week. But is this upcoming design challenge where they design something for Brooklyn Heights? Which, side note, I think it's a really cool idea. Really love this idea that Brooke is letting them design challenges or design garments for him. Like Rue would never. Rue would never even wear anything.
Oh,
Like
never.
would never. Sorry. But like, is this challenge really going to make someone quit, or do you think we're getting like the next coming of Melinda Verga, where someone is just like so stressed they freak out and then they have a moment in the bottom two and end up like getting through it. And if so, who are you thinking? Because I'm somewhere between Michaela and my random underdog option here, just because she looks so stressed in this preview, is Perla.
So the two people we know it cannot be happen to be Helena because she is shown during the moment, and Xana, who is told that she is telling the girl the truth. So we know it's not those two. We can guarantee that it's not Virgo based on the voice, I think.
I think in Mini
And I
too,
don't,
right?
yeah, and Minnie. So that leaves us with our final two of Michaela, who we've seen running out the room, who could have been going after Perla, or just her herself. If I had to guess, I would think it's Michaela who's like too stressed. They've kind of poked at her about how, she has an emotional moment like every single week, and like maybe this is her emotional moment outburst again, kind of thing. Um, So it's very possible, and based on how the girls did last time in a design challenge, which I believe there should have always be at least two design challenges, if not three, per season because of this reason alone. It's very interesting to see that some of the girls who did the worst in the design challenge are still here for this next design challenge. And if I had to guess, it is going to be Michaela who's going to have this emotional outbreak moment. Of course, it's possible anyone else, but I would assume it's Michaela. I think she's going to come back. I don't think she's going to actually quit. I think she's going to send someone home potentially and earn her spot as like the true lip sync assassin of the season. Um, I either see her going out on next the week after, which I assume is a makeover challenge, which kind of is her story of she came from a makeover challenge. She either goes home on a makeover challenge or she ends up winning the makeover challenge, kind of thing is what I see. Or she ends up in the bottom and once again proving she's the lip sync assassin of the season. I see like Michaela is our fan favorite, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she gets to go all the way to the end.
Mhm.
Um, she has a strong storyline, whereas I see Perla as someone who can get cut at any moment now. So I could see her lip syncing Perla, who's one of our really strong lip sync performers as well, which is what would cement Michaela's lip sync assassin status. Or I could also see I I could kind of see a double Shantae if we had certain queens in the bottom. Like maybe it is Perla versus Michaela, and it is a double Shantae, or maybe we get Perla versus Virgo, or not. Sorry, Michaela versus Virgo, and we get a double Shantae because they just hit were in the bottom. Then they have to lip sync again, and maybe we're not ready to see either of them go because they're such strong competitors. Or maybe we unfortunately see the fan favorite Michaela not make it as far as everyone wants her to. But I think no matter what, we we can kind of confirm that Michaela is in her feelings. She has kind of exploded over the top. Maybe the pressure has got her cracked. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but it is gaggy that we see Xana once again in the middle of some conflict, possibly, and uh, Michaela having an emotional outburst. So everything tracks. And then we see Helena on the sidelines being like, "Girl, what the fuck am I here for?" So so far really tracking as the season goes for that episode.
Mhm. I'd say and there's also a strange like disconnect for me in the edit, and there always has been with Michaela. Clearly she's beefing with Xana at this point in confessional, so would be I mean, and it's kind of ramping up the intensity of how like she's talking about her. So would not surprise me if she just does not like Xana and gets into it with Xana and ends up that's why she explodes. And like I said too, there's been a strange disconnect with how we feel about Michaela and how the queens feel about Michaela. Because clearly,
That's true.
like we think that she's a little bit more ingratiated probably with them, but it's she was picked last in that one challenge. She was clearly not on anybody's like high list to be saved with the beaver on a few occasions. So it's just there's something going on with her edit that has always kind of been questionable. And I think this might be the moment where I think Michaela might go, or this could be maybe the turning point where she like overcomes, has her like big Alaska breakdown, and comes in and slays the rest of the season. Um, I just have a hard time not seeing a finale without Virgo or Helena there at this point. Minnie, I
Yeah,
feel like is has earned her spot there. I mean, at this point, Minnie and Helena are the only people to never be in the bottom, so they feel like they're guaranteed to be top four. Uh, it feels like Xana, Perla, Michaela kind of have the most questionable, uh, most up and down at this point. So it really is kind of between the three of them, I think, for that fourth spot. And you never know what could also happen here. I mean, Helena has also had a very like subdued edit. They still have not truly given her a story yet, as far as I'm concerned. So I do also wonder here too if that's supposed to set up for maybe her going out right before the finale as well too, which would be insanity to me. But you know, either way, I'm so excited. And hopefully y'all can't wait to see how this turns out either. Because especially if you made it this far, y'all. And as always, thank you so much for listening. And please like and subscribe because it lets us know that y'all are enjoying the content. And be sure to catch all of our continuing coverage, including season 17 that starts this week, literally 2 days from now, Insanity. We'll definitely be doing some double coverage with Canada as well as season 17. And we also have the premiere of a bunch of other reality TV shows this week, or sorry, this month, like Trader season 3. Um, what else we got going on? We have the Challenge Rivals. There's a bunch of stuff going on here too. There's another one, a Deal or No Deal Island. There's a bunch of shows literally that are starting, and I'm so excited. And I hope y'all are excited for them too. But until next time, y'all. And on behalf of my co-caster Jack, this is Renegade signing out. But remember, keep spilling that tea, y'all. Bye.
Goodbye.